ask Councilman Rustin to lead us in our invocation.
Sure, let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for the opportunity as always to join tonight as a group, Lord. We thank you for the city and what it means to all of us. And Lord, we thank you for the people that support it on a day-to-day basis. And Lord, there's people that protect it. God, thank you for this time of year that we're in. Lord, just in a great summer and the time that we're about to enter into the year with the holidays and just a lot of activities within the city. I ask you, Lord, just be with the city as we move forward, be with the families. And God, I ask you to be with our country and our leaders, Lord, that everybody just to be safe and just move us forward as a country. And Lord, I ask you to be everything for the meeting tonight. Let things be discussed, be for the benefit of the city and those within. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I'll ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll let you guys be looking over the agenda. And while you're doing that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly.
Here.
Mizell. Rustin.
Here.
King. Here. Phillips.
Here.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here, and everyone's present, so we have a quorum. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to look over the agenda. We'll move on, and the first item, as always, on the agenda is our consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the August 6th regular city council meeting. The council has a copy of the minutes and has had the opportunity to review those. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, if not, let the record show the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. And we'll start with our department reports and police departments first.
Okay. So everything's going well with the police department. We're all green. Training is still underway. We have a few more recertifications to do, breathalyzers, things of that nature. Besides that, all of our major training is over with. Everything else is looking good. We're still asking people just to be careful. School's back in. Watch out for kids. Watch out for officers doing school traffic. I think they're working traffic both at the middle school and the elementary school. And I think they pretty much got that under control. We haven't had any complaints or any incidents at any of the school traffic areas. Highlights and opportunities. I think you all got a flyer on our Public Safety Day, September 21st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Come out and meet your first responders. It's the police department, Southeast Shelby Rescue will be there, fire department will be there. Come and hang out with us, get some snow cones, and watch me and Miss Lily do the electric slide again.
Can we see it now?
That's about it now.
You have to wait.
No previews.
All right, any questions for the chief? I had one for you, is are your SROs managing the traffic, or do you have other guys managing?
No, the SROs handle the traffic. They're assigned to, each one's assigned to do school traffic at 25 in Depot, and one's assigned to do traffic at the elementary school, and they rotate out.
All right.
Yep.
Just curious. Okay, any other questions for the chief? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Admin.
Everything's going good at with the admin and at City Hall. The clerk and I, assistant city clerk and I, have online clerk training August 28th through 30th. So we'll be here in the office. We'll just be doing that training online. The bottom is the budget through July. The first section is general fund, and the bottom section is all other funds, and everything's looking good.
Okay, any questions for the clerk? The treasurer or the alternate? Court, judge?
Al said he wanted to go before me because I took too much time.
He's on
He's
the
on
road.
There it is.
Only thing of any significance, Lisa resigned and is moving to Pelham and moving her skill set to Pelham Carrie will slide into the clerk magistrate position. She's already a magistrate. She'll be a court clerk magistrate. We will be seeking to fill a second magistrate position because it really takes two because you're on call. You have to be on call. We have a situation where she's going to be on vacation, and Joanna is going to fill in those 3 days. And of course, Joanna is a magistrate. She did not lose her license. She kept it. So for those 3 or 4 days, if we need a magistrate, we will have one. Outside of the staffing situation, you're going to post that.
It was posted last week.
And we'll see how that goes. We've had discussions about the collections. I don't know what to do about that. It is what it is, and probably will be. Inflation is hurting all folks, particularly the socioeconomic level of the folks that we deal with. Primarily, we just have a lot of people that just do not show up. Our Spanish-speaking clientele has increased. Not to get too much into the national news, but we've had open borders for over a year now. It has affected us. We have more Spanish-speaking defendants than we ever have. My daughter-in-law is the English second language teacher in Clay County. She is fluent in Spanish, has a master's degree. Her student load in Clay County, Alabama, has doubled for Mexicans, Hispanics that do not speak a word of English. They are here, and they put them in our high schools, and she is teaching them in their language and teaching them English in our language. And we have the same problem. We have to have an interpreter. If we have a Spanish-speaking defendant, we have to have an interpreter. My Spanish is good enough to get to the point where I know we have to have an interpreter. I can get past most of it. If we have to have an interpreter, we have one that we can call. We do have 1 or 2 police officers that are fluent, I think. So that's another source. But those things we just manage on a case-by-case basis, but everything seems to be rolling along fairly normally.
But you're getting by with the resources that you have as far as
Yeah.
translation and interpretation.
Yeah. You don't want to be hyper-technical about it, but constitutionally, and we've all heard this, you have to understand the charge against you. You have to be able to understand that, and you have to give them that in their language. We actually have, it's kind of interesting, when we give our defendants their rights in writing, when they come into court, we give it to them. Well, on the back, it's in Spanish. And so, I find it, and most of them will confess that they speak enough English to get by, as I speak enough Spanish to get by. It probably would not rise to the level of a true interpreter, but at the same time, as long as I feel like that we're not shorting anybody a constitutional right or something, we'll make it work. But that's just going to be what it is. It's just going to be what it is.
Well, I worked overseas with a multilingual workforce. They were all supposed to be able to understand English. And when you would talk to them and give them instructions or whatever, and then you asked them if they understood what you said, they always said yes. Mm-hmm. If you asked them to repeat it, it was a different story. They couldn't really tell you what you said. So it's a challenge, I understand that. And the point is if the resources that we have get to the point, in other words, if the demand for translation and interpreters increases to the point that the resources we have don't work, you need to let us know so we can start making arrangements.
Well, we can shift things around. If it gets to be a problem, the district courts and circuit courts have a interpreter that shows up. He works by the hour. He shows up. He's certified, licensed, and all that. If it gets to be a problem, we can simply shift those people, the Spanish-speaking people that truly do not speak English. We can shift those to a specific court and not have to have an interpreter here every court and still meet the technical requirements.
All right.
But
any other questions for the judge? Thanks, sir.
yes, sir.
All right, Alan, Public Works.
Yes, sir. Everything's running pretty good in Public Works. Right now, they, on the new shop that we're working on, they just completed the new roof drain off of it to get rid of the water out from around the building. We're starting to we will be starting to send out bids here before long. By the end of the month, we'll have the paperwork. They'll be able to start sending out notices about our paving projects on the street and around the shop up there. I met with the insurance adjuster last Wednesday or Thursday on the brush truck down here, and they sent Charlene an email saying what their estimate was to come up with, so we're gonna be getting hold of their truck works and taking it up there. It seems like they've got a pretty good turnaround where we can get it back to repair the damages where it was in the accident and everything.
Okay.
Other than that, everything's running smooth. I have got one that works for me that's got COVID. He'll be out for 3 or 4 days or 2. I told him, you gotta test negative before you come back.
On the lift station, lift pump, whatever, how's that coming along? Is that
We was waiting for them to get through that roof drain and get out of our way up there, we're looking up there and they're way trying to put that pipe and stuff in. Me and Dale's got to get together and go up there and we're gonna dig a test over there by the building, see if we do. If not, we're gonna dig one out there on the other side and see where it's gonna be our best option to put it.
So that'll be happening in the next few days.
Next
we're
week,
done.
they'll come up.
Okay. All right, great. Any other questions for Alan? Okay. Well, before I get into this, did we have any boards that met? Did we have any board reports on? All right, so these two boards, as fate would have it, the Columbiana Housing Authority and the Planning Commission, those appointments are made by the mayor, so we don't necessarily have to have council approval for that. But on the Columbiana Housing Authority, Billy Jones is already the vice chairman of the board of the Housing Authority, and Ms. Morton, who is the executive director, is requested that he be reappointed, and they're happy with his service there, so I'll be reappointing Billy Jones to his position there. The Planning Commission, we have one who has resigned before their term is up, and then we have another term that expires in October. So I am looking for names of interested personnel for the Planning Commission. So if you know someone, Micah, remind me.
Walker.
Michael Walker has resigned, and she's already had her final meeting. So we're kind of shorthanded until we fill her position. So I'm looking for a candidate. So anybody out there, or anybody who knows somebody who'd be interested in serving on the Planning Commission. It's a fairly, of all of our boards and commissions, it's probably the most demanding. And it requires some training and it requires some time. And so we're certainly very, very appreciative of those who serve. So I'm interested in, getting that position filled as soon as possible. So I don't have a name readily available. So if anybody's got any ideas, I'd certainly appreciate those. And I guess that's it for the board reports. Okay, so now we have a presentation from the Owens house. So we're going to have to do a little bit of technology gymnastics here to set this up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laurel Teal. I'm the director of Owen's House. I think the last time we were with you guys was in April for signing the proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we're so grateful for your partnership. We're here today to tell you a little bit more about what we do. We're located just off of Highway 25 across from Dr. Thornburg's, the Shelbyana Vet Clinic over there. We're right in your backyard, and so today we just kind of wanted to give you a little glimpse of the work that we're doing specifically in Columbiana. We visited 4 other city councils in the last month, and so we wanted to include you guys in this as well. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the experts, and that's Sean Stiers He's a board member with Owen's House, and he's also the chief juvenile probation officer for the county. And then Mary Beth Bowman, she's our program director and forensic interview specialist, and she's been with Owen's House for 10 years. So I'm going to turn it over to them. We're going to keep it quick because I know y'all have other business to attend to, but thank you again for having us.
Yeah, there we go. So, Mary Beth?
Yeah, so at Owen's House, we have 5, technically 6, if you know who Fitzgerald is. If you spent any time in Shelby County in Columbiana at the farm company, Kathy will have told you about Fitz. But we have with us, we have me and Andrea are our forensic interviewers, then we have a family advocate, her name is Tori, and then we also have Crandall Hill House, and she specializes in counseling with children who experience trauma. And then we have Laurel, our executive director, and then of course Tanya and Fitz. So that's the staff at Owen's House. And as you'll see as we talk today, we're a small staff, but we do a lot for Shelby County and for Columbiana, and so we'll just kind of go through what some of those services are.
Yeah,
And so at Owen's House, our mission is to equip Shelby County, the community, to protect, strengthen, and restore those who have experienced child abuse. We don't go through and say we're going to cure child abuse, because none of us can, but we can cure it for one child. We can alleviate that abuse for one child. So our vision is to stop child abuse for each child, because it matters to each child here in Columbiana, and that we believe that every child has the right to grow up free of abuse or trauma or some kind of negative effects that happens to them. So what we know statistically is 1 in 10 children will have experienced some sort of sexual abuse by their 18th birthday. So if you think about how many children that we have here in Columbiana, about 10% of them will experience some sort of sexual abuse in their lifetime. And so it's important to have somewhere like Owen's House where they can go when something does happen to them. We're actually codified within the state law to have a children's advocacy center in every municipality or county. It's just not a funded mandate, and so we're a nonprofit, and so that's why we do fundraising and things like that.
yeah, and one of the reasons that this organization is so important to me. Before I was the chief juvenile probation officer, I served in the district attorney's office, and I primarily prosecuted these kinds of cases. They were incredibly important to me then, and they are now, which is why I'm happy that I'm a board member. And it's because that 1 in 10 number, I'm one of those. Like when I was a child, terrible things happened. There was some trauma, and I didn't know about Owen's House. I wasn't aware of all that they did. And there's a lot of abuse like that just occurs that never really gets told about. And so when I was able to be in a prosecutor's position, being able to hold those accountable, it really meant a lot to me in that. And the reason why children advocacy centers are so important, if you want to look at this, the way it was before CACs were around, the victim would have to kind of figure out what they were doing on their own. They would have to find somebody to report it to, they would have to find a law enforcement officer to report it to, a school person to talk to, the DA to talk to, the defense attorney would want to do it, the hospital would want to do it, and they really had to be their own advocate. That's why in Alabama, this is like statutorily mandated, where the CAC ends up being the center, to where as soon as that person talks, they only have to say their story one time, and they don't have to relive that trauma over and over again if they're having to recall that. And it's done in a therapeutic way, and it's done in a way that makes sure that that child experiences how would you say it?
Less traumatic experience.
Yeah, the least traumatic experience as possible. And so I really want to go through just a couple of programs. Mary Beth is going to talk about most of them, but the thing that I loved the most when I was in the DA's office is the forensic interview. Forensic interviews come to the CAC either through law enforcement or through DHR. That's how a forensic interview gets started, is the referral. From there, I can't even read that. What is that?
It says respond.
Respond. Yeah. I've lost my glasses. I have no idea where they are. Is respond, right? And so the way that is responded to is they go in for the interview, they sit down, where they only have to tell their story once in a forensically sound way. And what that means is the forensic interviewer doesn't actually add anything to that interview. So all of the story that you're getting is 100% from that child, which is incredibly important when you're talking about bringing it to a trial and holding the person who did it accountable. And it's recorded to make sure that people like me when I was in the DA's office, or law enforcement officers, or even defense attorneys don't have to ask them questions over and over and over again. And you know, we ask ourselves, well, why is this so useful? Well, it's really useful for the child to be in a safe, comfortable space. I can't tell you how many times that Fitz has actually opened up conversations for me where even years later the victim would say, I'm not testifying. And then Fitz would come in, she would play with the dog, we would just kind of chill for about 10 minutes, and then we could get her talking, and she would actually become more courageous throughout that to where we were actually able to proceed to trial and put people away. But why is the forensic interview so important? It's actually really good for the accused. Because if you really think about 100% what you're wanting to get from the victim, if it's good for the accused if you're concerned about false allegations. Because the way a forensic interview is structured is the child can only give what the child knows. And so if the child doesn't really know details about that abuse or doesn't really know how they were abused or those kind of things, that lets you know that it could be a false allegation. So a forensic interview, as good as it is holding people accountable for bad behavior, it can also stop, and it does stop, false allegations. It's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of the work that we do, is because it's truth-seeking and it's not necessarily just after just the worst thing. And it's really good for investigators. If Owen's House didn't do this work, it would have to be put on investigators. And so that would slow them down from investigating other cases. And so it's really good for the child, the accused, and for the investigators like Columbiana law enforcement.
One thing we're really proud of is we have Andrea. She's our bilingual forensic interviewer, and we know that Shelby County does have a large Hispanic population, and so she actually can do the forensic interviews in that child's native language and what's most comfortable for them. And what we found is that the kids have never had someone in their own language ask them what's happened to them in their lives. And so they opened up to her about a lifetime of trauma that's happened to them that they've never been able to divulge to anyone. And so she's actually getting her master's degree, and she's going to be doing counseling with us. It's going to be trauma-specific counseling for children who speak Spanish, which there's no one right now in Shelby County that does that. And so we'll be able to do that at Owen's House. And we'll talk a little bit about our counseling program, but that's something that we offer that no one else in the county does, and all of it's completely free of charge to anyone that comes to Owen's House. This is kind of my thing. This is the multidisciplinary team. I coordinate that team of individuals who investigate these cases for Shelby County. We have about 63 members. We're one of the biggest multidisciplinary teams in the state. We apprise individuals from all of the school systems, so Shelby County Board of Ed. We have representatives from all the law enforcement, from DHR, juvenile court services, mental health. And we meet together once a month, and we go over all the cases, and we talk about, as a team, what do we need to do going forward in this investigation? Do we need to go to grand jury, do charges? Is there more that needs to happen? Columbiana Police Department is very involved. Investigator Honeycutt comes to all of our MDT meetings and is very involved in that, and so we've always worked closely with him and Knighton and all the other, Cookie and, everybody. And so we really appreciate and value our relationship with the Columbiana PD. But those are the individuals in this county who investigate all of these crimes. And so one of the things that Owen's House does is make sure all of those people are functioning correctly, that the investigations are going smoothly and effectively. And so we also do that through Owen's House. We have family advocacy services. So while the child is being interviewed, we have a primary family advocate who will meet with the non-offending caregiver and talk to them about how they're doing. Her job is just to support them. For our Spanish-speaking families, either Andrea can step in if I'm doing the interview, or we partner with HICA, the Hispanic and Immigrant Coalition of Alabama, and they come in. We have a partnership with them, so they'll come in and provide family advocacy services for those clients. We offer resources, so we keep a whole binder of anything that family might need during the duration and after their investigation. So whether they need food, utilities paid for, medical services, anything like that, we are able to refer them to those. We have partnerships with all of those different agencies to ensure that we get the specific needs that those families have.
And one of the things that I really like about the family advocate is it can kind of take the role of the communication for the investigator. So if any of the family has questions about what's going on with the case, instead of bothering 30 different investigators over all of the jurisdictions, they just have a family advocate where they can get clear, consistent information and actually clear up that investigator's time to continue working on other cases and putting together different cases. And so that's why I find the family advocate just kind of pretty critical.
Counseling, like I talked about, we have Cradle who does counseling, and all of our services are free of charge because we want to make sure every child has access to good mental health care after something has happened to them. So she's trained in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy and EMDR, which is kind of a new, it's eye movement desensitization, something. Yeah, so it's a therapy modality that they use specifically with trauma victims. But we're able to provide all of this counseling free of charge, and we also do assessments with the families, and if they need outside help, we have referral lists to all of the area mental health professionals that we also refer to. We also do prevention education in the schools. We go to all of the Shelby County elementary schools and Pelham City schools, K through 3rd grade, and we teach body safety education, which is about wanted and unwanted touches, those sorts of things. And we actually get a lot of our referrals from doing those programs. Kids hear for the first time that what's happening to them isn't normal. And so our investigators know when we've gone into a school because they'll start getting more reports. And so we're very active in Elvin Hill and all of the other area school systems around here that feed into the Shelby County school systems. We also provide multidisciplinary team trainings, and we're really proud of this as well because we actually are able to, we presented about our MDT training on an international level. So we presented at the International Symposium of Child Abuse, the Florida Conference of, it's called Crimes Against Kids Conference. And so we actually provide, if you ever drive on 25 past our building, you'll see the camper on the side of the road. That's actually going to be our crime scene that we build out and take to other multidisciplinary teams to train them on how to investigate these cases. We're going into 7 different counties this year providing these trainings, and we've actually talked today about going to Bozeman, Montana at the end of this year to do it. So it's kind of taken on, but that's another avenue that we provide to our community is those MDT simulation trainings. So like you said, they're intentional, so we're the first of the kind in Alabama to ever do these kinds of trainings. We're now actually partnering with the Alabama Network of Children's Advocacy Centers to provide it to all of the counties in Alabama. And like I said, we've presented on all the different levels to those, and so that's something unique to not only Shelby County, but Columbiana, that it was able to start here, and now we have international knowledge about it. And so at Owen's house, we do between 350 and 400 forensic interviews a year, and that only covers crime that occurred within Shelby County. About 66% of our cases involve sexual abuse, and that also includes child sex abuse material, which is another word for child pornography, and also prevention cases. So about 25% of our cases are child-on-child cases, whether it's happened in the school or at home. 28% are physical abuse, and then 6% are witnesses or some kind of chemical endangerment. But we know a lot of our cases do have some sort of substance abuse component to it, whether it's alcohol or fentanyl is really big right now, and so we know most of them have.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I want to talk about with is why Owen's house is just so important. I've tried, I don't know how many cases to a conviction, but one of the ones that I'm most proud of is the one where Mary Beth actually called me. And this is where the MDT process is just so amazing. She calls, she lets me know about a case. We get the investigator on the horn. The investigator then goes to the house with a search warrant. We're able to actually, because of that forensic interview, able to figure out exactly what items to get from the house. We send those over to the lab. Meanwhile, we grab the phone because the forensic interview, this girl's talking about what's on the phone and what her stepdad is like showing her and those kind of things. Everything comes back exactly as that child did. There was DNA exactly where she said it was able to do, where we were able to tell investigators, hey, this is where she's saying it, behind the shed, on these rags. There was some hair gel that was used as lubricant. I mean, it was truly awful stuff. And we weren't able to hold him accountable, but for Owen's house and that MDT, like really every single person coming together, working together. And I'm proud to say he has 9 consecutive life sentences at the end of that. He will die in prison. And that is one of the most proud cases I am after what he did to his stepdaughter. And it's those kind of things, and there are dozens and dozens of those cases that not only I've tried, but several people in the DA's office have tried, that we couldn't do and that we couldn't bring to justice without Owen's house, without Mary Beth doing those forensic interviews, bringing all those people together in that MDT coordination. And so why we're here ultimately, we're asking you to continue to allow us to do that. We are expecting massive cuts this year from the feds. There is a VOCA grant that is normally given. It provides, I think, about half the amount of funding for Owen's house, roughly. We're expecting over $100,000 cut from that. And that's not just our Owen's house or our CAC. That's going to be across the board of every single CAC. And so we're having to come up and figure out how to make that difference. And so the best thing that I can come up with that is if there are 1 in 10 children that have been sexually abused by the time that they're 18, the best way that I think that we can fight that is asking to win with 10. So our ask to you, and what our ask has been to every single city council, is a $10,000 donation to Owen's house in order to help have that stopgap, in order to help have these programs continue for Shelby County. And specifically for Columbiana, we value the services that we do. Counseling, about $100 a pop. The forensic interview, $175. It is fact-driven, it is evidence-based. The family advocacy, and then the whole MDT protocol. When you're bringing in 63 people together, that is the value of one single case. And I ask that not in a vacuum. I want to be able to give context to why we're asking that much and why I think that we're worth that. And the best thing that I can think to do is to compare ourselves to other CACs. So our budget is about $500,000 a year. Jefferson County has more. What's that other county? I can't even read it now. Montgomery County has more. Right underneath that, you'll see how many forensic interviews we have through MDT. So we're doing more with less. And again, part of that is the MDT, right? Because MDT exists, so I'm so sorry, I'm just lying. And so we do just as many counseling sessions, and then cases reviewed by MDT. You'll see that number is lower than the other two, but that actually means we only review cases maybe once. Those numbers, when they're higher, mean month to month, that exact same case is up for review again and again and again. And so we're actually closing out our cases faster. So that 467 number is how many cases we hit. That 496 number is how many cases get hit month to month. And so that number is much lower. And so I think that we're really able to show that we do a lot more with what we're being given, which is why we're asking for that and to be able to have that stopgap. And so the services that we provide to Columbiana, if we were to put all the cases together since 2020 to 2024, we've provided about $60,000. That's cases that have come in, those are trials that have either led to a plea or a trial, and all the associated work. So the value that we provide specifically to Columbiana over the last 4 years has been about $60,000. And to the community as a whole, is about $2.5 million. And that's the value that we provide. That's not the funding that we're given. And so the fact that we're able to do so much with the amount that we have, I really am proud of that work. So.
Yeah, so this is you.
Well, and so part of that is the only way that we move forward and we're able to build into the future is with funding. And I know one of the things that we're really excited about looking at is a future capital campaign where we can actually build out Owen's house to be bigger and better and just updated.
Yeah, we own the property behind our building, and so the hope is to be able to build on because we've slowly run out of room at Owen's house. If you ever come by and see us, which I hope you'll do, y'all wanna come by for a tour.
Oh,
But
please, yeah, because y'all are right here.
yeah, y'all can just, you can walk there. You can flip a quarter and hit us if you wanted to, but to be able to build more and have more capacity to see kids to continue on our trainings and those sorts of things.
So, thank you. If y'all have any questions, happy to answer them.
Y'all don't house families there, do you?
Yeah.
How does that communication process work? So simply, and you go into school and a child comes up and tells his principal, his teacher, and says, he or she says, hey, I think I'm in this realm.
Yeah.
You contact the parents first?
So how that generally happens is that school counselor will make a report to DHR, and they have a SRO within the school, and so that report also goes to the SRO. And then once they generate that case, then they'll contact the parent, if it's a safe parent. Now, if it's, there's no unsafe adults in the home, they have a whole other process for that, but generally, it's reaching out to that parent saying, hey, your child's made a report, we have this place called Owen's house, they're gonna come and talk to the ladies there, and they're gonna be able to talk about what happened to them there. And so generally, that's how it works. They tell the principal calls DHR, talks to the SRO, and then they'll come to Owen's house, and before that, they'll have already come out to the home, talked to the family, and then told them about what the process will look like.
With the forensic interview being recorded, is that considered a testimony? Do they have to testify in court too?
So it honestly depends. So if the defendant still has a right of confrontation, right? And so normally the child does have to testify. But I tried a case. It was a 9th grade boy who had been sexually abused by mom's boyfriend, actually, and he had literally just isolated it from his mind. He could not recall a single event because of the amount of trauma that had associated 4 years ago. And so, he had to come testify, but I wasn't concerned that he didn't remember because I had that. And so I was able to produce that for the jury, and we were able to convict him. So that forensic interview really provides an ability to hold people accountable, because some of these cases take a few years to get to trial. And when that happens, that forensic interview is literally, it's worth its weight in gold. I mean,
It does become their statement of record for the investigation, and so no one else interviews that child. DHR doesn't interview them, law enforcement doesn't interview them. I'll even tell them, like, if someone comes and wants to talk to your kid, tell them to pound sand and call me, and I'll tell them not to talk to your kid. But it's to be able to keep that testimony pure, and so they generally get up in front of the stand, hey, did that person do it? Yeah, they did, because constitutionally, the offender has that right, but at that point, the onus of it comes onto me and Andrea to defend why we did what we did in the forensic interview, why the child made the statements they did, why that's developmentally appropriate, and those sorts of things. So we take the bulk of that when we're able to use the forensic interviews.
Yeah, so most of my questions usually revolve around, were you honest in your forensic interview? Would you want to lie? Why wouldn't you want to lie? And so it's really just talking to that child about their interview instead of about their abuse, because we can't enter in that video as evidence.
If you don't mind, I would like to say something as well, speaking on their forensic interviews. Without the resources of Owen's house, without the forensic interviews and the counselors and things, law enforcement would be way behind the 8 ball on dealing with some of these children. These folks have the art form of being able to talk to a child and extract that information in a comfortable setting, in a comfortable area, and where we, as let's face it, grown men sometimes do not have that ability, okay? These folks get information for us that build our case. They basically make our case for us, and without that, we would lose a lot, especially sexual abuse, child abuse, things of that nature. We would be way behind the 8 ball and we'd be suffering. These guys do a phenomenal job in what they do, and I'm extremely proud to have them in Columbiana. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Yep.
Well, and my last little thing, Owen's house is a little thing in Columbiana. And you heard her talk about going international. Owen's house, because I've tried cases all across the state with like refusals, I've never worked with a better CAC. Columbiana really is a gold star. And Owen's house is a gold star in Columbiana. And y'all should be really proud of their work.
But thank you, but y'all
Thank
come,
you.
we're gonna be doing some coffees with kids, later, we're gonna open the CAC up for people to come for tours, have coffee with us, there'll be coffee hopefully for leaders.
Yeah.
But y'all can come and see kind of what it looks like to walk through Owen's house, because you don't really understand until you see it, so y'all are more than welcome to come visit us, and kind of see it for yourself.
And I owe you guys some pinball pins.
And we have earrings.
Yes.
And Fitz, maybe we can arrange for Fitz too.
That'd be
All
great.
right, well,
Thank
very
y'all.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for what you do.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay. Well, now what we're gonna have to do is temporarily suspend the council meeting for a public hearing for a rezoning of property. So bear with me as I go through this process. So proper notice of this regularly scheduled council meeting for the city of Columbiana was given in advance of this public meeting, and the notice has remained posted throughout this scheduled meeting. So now I'll entertain a motion to suspend this regularly scheduled council meeting in order to have a public hearing.
I'd like to make the motion to suspend the regular meeting.
Second.
We need to have unanimous consent of all members, so let's do a roll call vote for that, please.
Councilmember Lilly? Mizell? Rustin?
Yes.
King? Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes. All right, so since we've had the roll call vote to suspend the council meeting, I'm now going to call this public hearing in order to hear from anyone speaking for or against this rezoning. But before I do that, let me just kind of talk about it up here. So this is the parcel in question. And this is part of a process that we've been going through. There have been several properties around town that were never zoned. And according to the advice and counsel of our city attorney, that within the city limits, all of our property must be zoned something, okay? And so that's what we're doing, is just converting this from no zoning to, in this case, A1, which is agriculture. It's on Highway 25. This is the animal clinic, and the Owens house we were just talking about. This is a rehabilitation facility, and this is 25 going out towards Wilsonville. I want to tell the council members, and remind them, I should say, because they hear from those speaking for or against the rezoning request, and there'll be an opportunity for the council discussion as we reconvene the meeting. So at this time, would anyone like to speak in favor of this rezoning request?
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. As you explained, this is part of the process that you were cleaning up some no zones in the city limits, and we received the notice that it was going to be rezoned residential, but Jan and I request, instead of residential, you zone it A1 agriculture. We have no intention to develop it residentially or commercially for the future. It's adjacent to family farmland. It's been farmed for decades. And so that's our request. Instead of going from no zone to residential, you take the 5 parcels and make up that complete lot and just rezone it to A1 agriculture.
Okay. Is there anyone present who would like to speak against this rezoning request? Okay, if there's no one else wishing to speak, at this time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Does this need to be?
It doesn't have to be.
Okay, so all in favor to adjourning the public hearing, indicate by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the public hearing is adjourned, and I'm going to reconvene the regular council meeting. And that will take us to this. This is ordinance Z061324, rezoning the property. Would anyone like to introduce this ordinance? Sorry, I do this every time. In order for us to adopt this ordinance prior to, without a second reading, we have to agree to suspend the rules, and that has to be done unanimously as well. So is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay, would you call roll for that, please?
Councilmember Lilly? King? Yes. Oh, sorry. Mizell? Rustin? King,
Yeah.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, so the rules have been suspended so that we can vote on this
Goodness
at
gracious.
first reading. So, is there a motion to introduce this rezoning ordinance?
I'll make a motion, we introduce, ordinance, is it Z? 061324, it's rezoning property from no zoning to A1, on vicinity of Highway 25, owned by Ed and Jenna Kruger.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Is this?
We can or not, it
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
think it does.
Okay.
So all in favor of the rezoning, indicate by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so the rezoning ordinance is passed with unanimous consent.
Ed, you said that you own the pieces that right up to that?
Yes, I'm sorry, that one is in the city limits, there's 5 total pieces, but that's the only one.
Back here?
Right,
Okay.
and then, of course, got some family adjacent to us.
All right, so I call the regular council meeting back to order again. And the next item on the agenda is we need to have a discussion about de-annexation. And this is both a very simple but also a very complex issue. And so this is not a public hearing, and we don't normally ask for input until the end of the meeting. But I would like to ask Rob McElroy, who's here, to explain to us what it is that you're wanting to do. So, the floor is yours.
I made some copies of some things, hand out to y'all, so maybe help explain this a little bit. You know, I know the word de-annex, I know that's a terrible word in town, okay? And y'all know I'm going to get out of the pool, okay? I wouldn't want to do anything to take away from the value of Columbiana or add any value, so to speak, to Chelsea, Alabama. Right? But this is an interesting situation here, so I've done my best to kind of embellish a little bit on that drawing right there to help explain to y'all why and why it makes sense to me. And I've had several discussions with some other people around town of discussing. I'm on the planning zoning board, so I brought it up to them, or actually to Ryan, because I wanted to get his idea on it from 8 months ago. All right, what y'all seeing there, the big yellow square, that's the original 40 acres that I bought around November of this past year.
Rob, can I stop? Where's 47? It's on this side of the side.
All right, so you can see it here, right here. This is 47.
The yellow square. Okay, here's 47 is out here.
Okay.
I'm way back in the bottom.
Look up here, Ricky. This is 47.
Yeah.
This is Weaver Creek Road. This is the little parcel that he's talking about de-annex.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank
And
you.
the square up there where it says Moss Tree Lane right there,
Right there, yeah.
Okay.
that 40 acre square is in Chelsea, Alabama. How that happened, I don't really know. Okay?
Now this is an approximation right here, and
That's right.
this was, I guess, a survey was done of the larger plat, I guess, down here, okay? And then this is the piece that he wants to subdivide and de-annex.
Right, so I bought the 39.47 acres, okay? And when I bought it, they had not surveyed this bottom line right here, okay? Everything else was surveyed out there. And they made an honest mistake by telling me that they thought the property line was on further down about where this curve is in the road, okay? Now, the green line that y'all see, the long green line that I put on my drawing, there's 3 mountain knolls that come down in different directions on all this property. after the end of the arrows where the green, the left of the green is flat. It's flat land down there. The pink lines is the driveway that I put in going up to the main lot. The one, the parcel one, 39 acres, is something that I'm gonna one day build a home site, build a cabin out there, and I've already built a lake. That's, you see the lake that's out there. And this particular piece of land is, I'm gonna leave it in a microwave family estate that'll be in the family for a long time, that all my boys will share. The area inside the blue is a 7.04 acres that is the slope of the mountain coming down in one direction, and then the home site one is the slope of the mountain coming down in the other direction. So that's kind of like a valley right there where that driveway line is. If you turn over and look at the aerial view, it gives you a little better idea. The yellow line that you see, that is the original property line for the 40 acres. And you can see my driveway that's in the corner road, how it cuts up the side. That's a slope going up there, and it goes down into the valleys. So that is the driveway that were created to go in up to where the home site is. The home site is real close to where the 40-acre line is. I kind of drew it out on the other page. There's where the kind of like the home site, potential home site is. These other two lots are out there, which I've designated as home site 1 and home site 2. 9.31 acres is one of them, and 12.33 is others. That land there has potential home sites on them. I don't know if any of my boys will ever want to build a house out there or not. But the 7 acres, this outline in the blue, is not a home site. It never will be a home site. It's land that's kind of coming down at an angle, and you can't really tell from the site map. You can't really see it. But that particular land right there will never be anything but what it is forest, and a buffer between what I want to be the family farm and the other property that's out there. You know, it's a very interesting piece of land out there. In fact, it's got these 3 knolls, and it all drops down to about where y'all see the roadway coming around. It's nice and flat. I wouldn't ask to de-annex 7 acres to do anything to devalue Columbiana or take some land out of Columbiana that would ever be a home site or a tax generating thing. But when I'm dead and gone, you know, and I want to leave this, what'll be 47 acres to my children, to the family estate, it would be much cleaner if it was all one parcel ID, and not part of it in Columbiana, Alabama, and part of it in Chelsea, Alabama. You know, when I went to Chelsea a month or 2 ago to work on getting the power out there and this and that and other, I mentioned to their city clerk about, well, what do you think? We got to talk about Chelsea, and that Chelsea's back in the back. 3 sides are surrounded by Columbiana, but Chelsea's on like 2 of it. And I kind of bantered a little bit with her about, well, how did this come about that, you know, this is Columbiana, this is Chelsea, and all this stuff. And I said just a little something about, I wish all my land, you know, was in one town, was in one city and whatnot. And she was real quick to tell me, well, we're not going to do that. We won't de-annex 40 acres of a home site, a lake site, this and that and the other. You know, Mr. McElroy, that's what you're asking me. So, you know, I went away from that. But again, that's the reason that I'm asking for it. To me, it makes sense. The lay of the land, this mountain is rolling down come down this valley, and that is the only, or that's the most logical way to be able to go access the property, and that's the road that y'all see. That's the temporary road that I made, is going up right there. It goes up and circles around, and the home site is right in here amongst these trees that looks down to the bottom. Like I said, I'm going to, I've cut some roads into this site 1 and site 2, and there's actually home sites that I've designated to me that makes sense for one day for there to be a house on. And again, the site, home site number 1 is 9.31 acres. It's a pretty good, it's a real nice piece of property, and it's a decent amount of property. The other one being 12.3 acres, the way that one laid out was because I'm following Weaver Creek. Weaver Creek is a designated, sure enough, creek that the Army Corps of Engineers governs, and this and that and the other. My property center line would goes up the heart of Weaver Creek. And so I'm splitting it between the 2 lots until I get to a certain point where again, the land drops off in the back there. But I wanted this lot 2 to have a buffer and privacy away from home site, from between 1 and 2. So that's about the size of it. I'm asking to be able to take the 7.4 acres and have it put with my 39.47 that turns it up to 46.51. And again, it will be put in my will that this 46 acres is in a McElroy family estate, and is to be passed down through generations of the McElroys. And that's, that's about the best way I need to explain it, was try to color it, so to speak, and that's why I put the arrows on there for y'all to show y'all how these 3 pieces of land kind of come together around this different area. And there's really not there just wasn't really a good way to access the 40 acres around where the house site was, and it being so close to this other property line. At first, all this land out here was sold. When I bought the 40, everything else out there was sold. And when surveyors came out and surveyed the line, and I was like, dang, y'all told me that it was down here around where this curve was. I mean, I know it was an honest mistake, okay? It was an honest mistake on their part, and they kind of came up with that using the site map, I guess, that the county has. Well, then the man that was buying this 90-something acres out here, he couldn't close on it, and he bailed out. When he bailed out is when I got in touch with the developer and went on and bought 28 more acres that adjoins my 40 to make the one lot the way I really wanted it to be. Well, a few months down the line, I was out there, and that's what had me jump across and buy 12.7 more acres. It's on the bottom left there, called parcel 1B. That's on the other side of the road that's split by Weaver Creek. Somebody was gonna buy that 12.7 acres, and there's a beautiful house site on it that backs up right up to where my pasture is. I knew somebody was gonna buy that and was gonna build a house. And they was gonna be looking down on me, down on the pasture. I was gonna lose privacy, or I just like having the buffer. I don't want people out there hunting around me. I don't plan on hunting, killing nothing, I'll catch some fish. Lately, I've just been killing army worms. It's been the 3rd time.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started.
Is there any questions, anything that I can?
Is this Columbiana here?
Yeah, the bottom.
Yes.
This is Chelsea.
That
so
square right
this
there
right
is
here is what
Chelsea.
you're-
The
okay,
rest of it's
gotcha.
Columbia.
If you look up here, this yellowish shaded area is Chelsea, and the pink is
Okay.
Columbiana. And this is approximate location. I drew that box myself, so it's not exact, but anyway.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Probably several, depending upon. Go ahead and look up here on the screen because I've got the stuff up there. So this parcel right here is this 1B down here, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you own that, right?
That's correct.
Okay, but you want this and this to be part of your estate, but not necessarily this.
Not that at all. No, I do not want to take that out of Columbiana whatsoever.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have to take it out of Columbiana to put it in your estate, but I'm just saying, you're just saying that you don't, you want this to be in your farm, but this piece of property down here is not gonna be part of your estate?
It will be if it's still around when I pass. Now, one of my sons or somebody may want to build a house out there.
Okay.
And that's why I'm separating.
So you might develop this or somebody might, you might sell it.
That's correct. I
Okay,
could.
you
I
could.
don't necessarily want to, but one of my sons might want to build a house on lot 3 or lot 2,
Okay.
you know,
And-
so to speak.
And this lot right here, this is your driveway coming up around this way, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And your home place is in here somewhere,
in
right?
there. Yes, sir, it's right in there.
Yeah, right in here or here.
So,
So the only thing in this little piece you want to carve out is a driveway,
that's correct.
okay?
But you can
And
see,
as far as you know, you don't have any intentions of doing anything else with that.
oh no, you can see the driveway
Sure, I understand, I saw it on the picture.
on the aerial.
Right.
on the
With the
aerial.
permanent driveway.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've got gates there. And actually, the developer is going to deed me, since I own, this is Weaver Creek. Okay? So after you get to Weaver Creek, I own both sides of the road. This was a lot I just bought. The developer is gonna deed me this land right here, and I have spent the money to build a cul-de-sac right here. So I will end up putting a gate across here to keep people from going to my spot out there. And there's
So-
a cul-de-sac here.
So your piece of property is just the stuff east of the creek, it's not this part of the parcel over here?
Yes, sir, this is this,
I'm talking about right here. Is that,
that's the last piece of property that I bought.
but, so all of this rectangle right here is your property?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, now, so you've got this on here and you've surveyed this line right here,
That's correct.
okay? Do you have a survey or dimensions for this right here?
The length of the road?
This little
Oh, that-
parcel outlined in yellow, do you have a survey or dimensions that define that parcel?
Well, what I've got, I have this where it sent the surveyors out there. What I did was I wanted to talk to y'all before I had them actually draw it up and make a parcel and this, that, and the other.
Right,
You know, because if I'm not allowed to do it, I don't know exactly what I might do.
okay,
But yes, so what I did was went out there and I physically marked where I wanted the property lines to be, the front and the back, on all 3 of those lots. And then I had the surveyors come out and shoot it and measure it and tell me how much it was.
right,
And I originally thought that 7 acres, I originally thought it was gonna be about 4 or 5.
okay.
And you know, and it would give you a whole lot of heartburn to lose 7 acres. I mean, I could turn this line and cut it across there. But again, with the lay of the land, this guy isn't gaining anything. And I'm trying to keep a distance away.
Okay, and so you want this all to be one parcel
That's correct.
because you believe it would make it easier for your estate
That's correct.
management, okay?
One parcel, you know, one legal description.
But there wouldn't be any problem with putting 2 parcels into your estate plan, would there? Why would
No, other than it's just not as clean, it's just not as clean as to have one clean parcel that doesn't entail with 2 descriptions and I guess 2 tax notices and all that kind of thing.
So you're wanting us to give Chelsea this 7 acres of land that's gonna have nothing on it but a driveway.
That's correct.
All right. So let me go back. and kind of read this stuff right here. So, the discretion, and I appreciate you talking to the planning commission and everything, but the discretion to de-annex property lies solely with the council. However, there's some nuances to that. So what we have to do is we have to pass a resolution, which is on the agenda today, saying that we agree to this de-annexation of property. Now, when we do that, and this is where I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to table the issue of the resolution based on one of the questions that I asked you a minute ago, unless the answer changes. But once we pass this resolution, we have to submit a certified copy of that resolution to the probate judge, okay? And that certified copy of the resolution has to have a plat or map correctly defining the corporate limits proposed to be established. So in other words, since we're changing our city limits by taking that if we were to agree to that, taking that 7 acres out, that's why I asked you if you had it defined. Do you have a survey, or do you have dimensions, or any of that sort of stuff? We can't pass this resolution until we know what that is. Okay? Because then we gotta go give it to the probate. Then the probate judge has to call a hearing. Okay? And that hearing will allow people to come and say they give the reasons why they don't think the de-annexation ought to happen. Okay? And if they show just cause in accordance or in the opinion of the probate judge, based upon the law, then he has to have an election. In other words, all the residents and all the citizens in Columbiana have to vote to say, yeah, we want this to be de-annexed, okay, and go into Chelsea, unless nobody comes to this hearing and objects to it. If nobody shows any just cause why it shouldn't happen, he won't have that election. But if in that hearing somebody does and he thinks they have shown just cause, there's an election. City of Columbiana has to pay for that election, okay, for all that stuff to happen. So my personal opinion, Rob, is I have heartburn with giving that 7 acres to Chelsea. I have heartburn with the way Chelsea annexed that property right up against our city limits to begin with. But, you know, every time somebody wants to, we've had people come to us before and we have not approved their de-annexation.
Right.
I just don't want to be in the city. I want to be
And
in
I
the
wouldn't
county.
either if I didn't think it made sense.
I understand, but listen to my point here. You know, they say, well, I don't want to have to comply with city ordinances. I want to be able to shoot my gun on my property and all this other stuff. But my fear is if we do it for one, how many people are going to come along and say, well, I want you to de-annex my property, and I want you to de-annex mine, because it's convenient for me to have one parcel, when I could easily have two, okay? And I look at it this way, you know, you're going out of a city. The city of Chelsea doesn't have a police department. It doesn't have a street department. It doesn't have a sanitation department. It doesn't have a sewer or water department. All that stuff is contracted out. And so the residents have to pay for all those services with all those different contractors, okay? Now they don't have a municipal ad valorem tax, so you wouldn't have any property tax, city property tax, if you went into Chelsea on that property. Yes, we have a property tax, but that property tax, along with our sales tax, pays for our police department, pays for our sewer, and pays for you know, our streets and sanitation and all that sort of stuff. And I just think it is my personal opinion, that it is it would set a very, very bad precedent if we agree to that de-annexation. When I think, since all you have is a road on there, all you gotta do is have 2 parcels in your estate, and I don't see that. I think your attorney could write that up in a heartbeat. So, anyway, any other questions or comments?
Well, I think what makes this more clear in terms of the annexation, because there's no revenue involved in terms of like sales tax revenue and all that. I mean, that's one.
Is that alarm tax revenue?
Right, but, that's, I don't know, the thing on 7 acres of an undeveloped piece of property. And I don't know that, I mean, how does that work if he owns the whole property? Would somebody come up in that probate hearing and object to 7 acres being de-annexed on his own property? I don't know that. I do agree, if this was in the middle of town, or if it was some area to where it was some commercialized area, I think, yeah, the conversation becomes different.
And it's because of
You know,
the topography of the land
Yeah,
is what is the only reason that it makes any sense that I wanna do it, and those 7 acres will never be nothing but a slope and a buffer.
And I assume the main reason is because you don't know if you're gonna keep these others.
That's correct.
So if you sold those and kept it here, then it could be a problem.
That's right.
well.
What? I'm sorry, say that again?
If he decided to sell the 2 lower pieces
Right.
and this stayed in Columbiana, it could be a problem for his privacy, I guess, toward where he's got his new home.
I don't see it's a problem at all. As far as privacy to his new home, it doesn't matter if this is Columbiana or Chelsea. I mean, the privacy issue is identical. The point is right now, all of this is his property, and this is his road going to his, and there's nothing he plans to put on this piece of property but that road, okay? And then this, he may sell, or he may have family who decides they're gonna build out there or whatever. But my point is we would be setting a dangerous precedent, in my opinion, to de-annex this, and now the next guy over here comes along and says, well, I want to de-annex mine. And they said, well, you did it for him, okay? And the reason he wants to do it is because he has a trailer on this piece of property right here, and he wants them all to be, and the reason people do it, in my opinion, is to avoid the ad valorem tax on the property.
Well, I'm not trying to do that.
Well, you may not be, but others might.
There's gotta be logical reasons.
And the other thing is when Chelsea annexed all this old Westervelt property, initially they told Westervelt, hey, we don't have any ad valorem tax, it doesn't hurt you. And the other reason was they were trying to do that fire district out there, and there was concern that they might end up having to, pay something to this fire district. Chelsea says, come on into us. The county was trying to do it. Come on into us, and you don't have to worry about paying that. So Westervelt said, okay. And then no sooner than they did that, Chelsea started pursuing their own school system. And guess what? They were going to pay for it by assessing a municipal ad valorem tax after they had already convinced these guys, let us annex you because you won't have to pay any tax on that property. Mm-hmm. And that school system idea may come up again. Okay, so the tax issue, may or may not be a benefit or whatnot. I think it's a very, very bad precedent, and like I said, it should not affect you in any way whatsoever, other than you're going to have to pay a little bit of ad valorem tax on that property, and and you're going to have to drive through Columbiana to get to your house in Chelsea.
Well, I don't think it creates a precedent. I mean, we have the authority to create that precedent regardless. And I think the next, if they're lined up out the door and done de-annexation, I think everyone's a different scenario.
Well, let me ask you this,
Okay.
if there's, in full disclosure, there's a family relationship between you.
David, don't bring that into this.
Well, I ain't going to bring it into this. I think full
Well,
disclosure.
here's the other thing. If we're going to bring that into this, then I'm going to introduce a resolution right now, and we're going to vote on it.
We can't.
Well, We can,
No, we
but
can't,
I mean, don't,
because
do
we
not,
don't have a description of the
do
property.
not go to the family that,
Let
you're
me
doing this
finish.
for your own benefit.
I'm
You're
doing this
your
for the
benefit.
city. You,
No.
how do I know you're not doing it for your family's benefit?
So you're calling me
My point
unethical?
is-
Oh, no. And this is about to get, this is about to be broadcast now. So you just said, you insinuated that I'm being unethical to this. You're not, I don't
I
care.
did not say that.
No,
And
you assumed
And you
it.
interrupted
No,
me
you
before I had a
assumed it.
chance
You
to say
assumed it.
what I was gonna say.
You assumed it.
But-
No. You assumed,
All right, look,
Based on our
I've got a
relationship-
point of order.
no, based on our
I've got a
relationship,
point of order. I
You're
have
not
the
gonna do
right
it.
to speak, and I
You're
am
not gonna
going
do
to
it.
speak.
you're not gonna assume.
I've heard what you said.
You're not gonna
I
assume.
can assume whatever I want to.
Well, you're assuming I'm unethical, and that's not gonna work.
Well, that's not what I assumed.
Yes, it is.
Okay, but the point is I think everybody needs to know that there's a relationship that could bias your opinion.
Wait, I'll abstain from it, but that still
Okay.
doesn't assume you assume that I'm
Abstain
unethical.
if you want to. You don't have to.
You're
by the
dang
way.
right I don't have to.
You don't have to. You don't have to recuse yourself. But I do think the world should know that there's a relationship there.
David,
And
I've
that
been-
way, any ethical concerns are eliminated.
David, I've been in Columbiana for 44 years.
Well, we've been a part of this for 50-something.
And I've been married to my wife for 20 years, and they know that Rob is her uncle. Everybody in the city knows that.
Well, those who don't know it now.
Yeah. And there's
Okay.
nothing to hide.
Okay.
But you're assuming that I'm being unethical because I've got a family.
I didn't say that.
You assume, you didn't have to say it.
Ricky, I did not say
You
that.
didn't have to say it.
But people could assume that of this council, that we are doing favors for folks if we don't understand this. But
Actually, Phyllis has been my neighbor for 65 years, next door neighbor.
look, Rob, I'm not accusing you of anything, and I'm not accusing Ricky of anything. But I do think full disclosure and transparency is important, okay? It is. I believe that. I believe it with all my heart, and I'm always going to be transparent, and I'm going to be full disclosure on it. This is a bad precedent for the city of Columbiana. I think it's the wrong thing to do. We do it for you. We got to do it for everybody else. It's the exact same reason why the lady at Chelsea says, we're not going to let you de-annex.
Well, that's 40 acres, and it's a house.
And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's 40 acres or if it's 7 acres or whatever. And if you cut off the corner, it wouldn't make any difference either, okay? It is just the fact that we would be de-annexing revenue-producing, tax revenue-producing property. And because you make it one parcel, it will become part of the city of Chelsea. And
How much tax?
I don't know.
More tax could that 7 acre generate?
I don't know. I have to look it up. Probably a few $100s a year. But, you know, once it's developed, all that stuff could potentially change.
$20 a year.
No, we'll see.
All right, well,
So anyway, I think we have to table this. I would have liked, this should have never been put on the agenda today. The city council, this council sets the agenda for our meetings. And this got put on the agenda without my knowledge, and I don't think any other member of this council knew it was going to be on the agenda today. So it got put on there inappropriately, okay, but it's there. And so I wanted to have the discussion, and I think we need to table it until you get some dimensions on this thing. And then if we do have a vote on it,
I have a survey. I have a survey.
you told me you didn't. I asked you if you had dimensions on this.
That measured and tell me the 7.04 acres.
Okay, will you give us those dimensions?
7.04 that survey company did.
Okay, well, they're not, those dimensions aren't listed here. Those dimensions are for this entire parcel, that description there. So you have a description of this property?
I don't know the right description of that property. I told him they shot the line, put pins in and measured.
Yeah, and the pins are I saw the pins up here, okay? And you told me this was the line that they shot. So in order for us to do this, all right, so we've got to have those dimensions.
Yes.
We've got to have those dimensions. So, and that's required in order for us. Okay.
But I just didn't have them to do, I told them to shoot it, measure, tell me how much it is.
Sure.
So then I can go to the city council.
Okay. So as long as we have the dimensions where we can describe that property,
Yeah.
then we can include it in the resolution, and we can submit it to the probate court if it is voted on and passed, which I hope it's not.
And I thought I was supposed to go to like Charlene.
Can you explain why you have to get on the?
Yeah,
We don't, well, the thing that we don't know, we don't approve or deny anything that's on the city council agenda from every 2 weeks, so.
if a citizen comes to me and asks me to put something on the agenda, I'm putting it on the agenda.
That is
Council
correct.
got this ahead of time, so nobody was surprised that it was on here tonight. So I just want that known.
That's incorrect. If that's the case, we need to start our approval process for everything that's approved or not on the
Well,
agenda. No,
so-
on every situation,
And
not just this
you may
one.
be careful what you wish for,
That's
because it is
fine.
the council's responsibility to set the agenda.
But don't say that this was not, nobody knew this on the agenda. This was put on the agenda just as like everything else for the last 3 or 4 years.
So how many of you knew it was on the agenda before you walked in here?
Everybody that got this out when I emailed it yesterday.
So
Well, how many read it?
I don't,
That's not my problem. I send it out like I'm supposed to. It
So
is
how
the
many-
job of the city clerk to
Hey,
do the agenda and send it
This
to
is a
the.
council meeting, this is not a city clerk meeting.
this
So
is
just
getting bad.
quiet. All right, so the point is, folks, we should have an opportunity to discuss these things when we're gonna put a resolution forward. And, I saw this on the agenda yesterday, just like you did, and normally I do talk to the clerk about the agenda, not always, and in this case, I did not. And I know many of you come to this meeting and you don't read this agenda before you come to it. I know it for a fact. And so, the point that I have is that we need to table this to the next meeting. And exactly. And, we've had a robust and a lively discussion about it, and until then, we need those dimensions for this property. And, we can take it up at the next council meeting.
I'll tell the surveyor to give me the dimensions tomorrow.
Okay, and you came into my office and talked to me about this afternoon.
I did.
So you just said that you didn't talk to me about this.
Who said that?
You just said that a minute ago, that you have not talked to me
Yesterday, I
about
did
this.
not talk before you put the agenda out. I talked to you about it
You
today.
did talk to me about it today,
But
so
the
you knew
agenda was
before.
out and published before that. So I did not have any input into it.
Thank y'all for your time.
All right, thank you. All right. That was fun. We will table this. Sewer project update, had a meeting with, the ADEM folks, and, they are going to, actually, it was the SRF folks are gonna produce for us a, pro forma amortization plan for financing this thing through the state revolving fund. And when I get that, we'll be talking about that more. Okay, Thursday, we have the FY25 budget review with the city council. There's a mayor's luncheon with Congressman Palmer on the 4th in Hoover. There's a Washington fly-in. I had not planned to go to it, but I talked to Kirk Manser, so I may reconsider on that. There is a leave-behind packet about Columbiana that we need to update. So input from you guys, what you think we ought to put on that. It's basically a front-back, one-page type thing of highlights for Columbiana to leave the congressional delegation. Whether I go or not, the chamber would take that, 58 Inc. would take that up there. They'll be having Capitol Hill visits with the Alabama delegation on the 26th, so it would be like if I went, fly up on the 25th, back on the 27th. 58 Inc. is probably going to do this presentation for the chamber, and they're going to highlight 2 to 3 priority projects for Shelby County. And I have a little bit of concern because most of that is focused on the I-65 corridor. I did mention that I would certainly like to have the rural towns in Columbia and Shelby County to have some projects that they might want to highlight. They can't do much more than that, otherwise they would lose the attention of the congressional delegation. And then I don't know if I brought this up at a previous meeting, but in 2026, that's the 200th anniversary of Columbiana being the Shelby County seat. And I think we ought to plan a big celebration. I have brought it up to the county, and hopefully we can get them engaged in that. And I invited at the Mayor's Association meeting all the other municipalities in the county to participate. Any questions on that? Announcements.
Right, so on September 2nd is Labor Day and city offices are closed. The 5th, Columbiana Main Street is doing a social at Just a Tish. They are trying to recruit new members for their various committees. So everyone's invited to that. And then Saturday and Sunday, which is September 7th and the 8th, the Birmingham Bicycle Club is holding their 100-mile race, and it will start in Old Mill Square Park. And they go from here to Shelby, all the way back around to Chelsea, through Wilsonville, back through Columbiana. So it's 100 miles altogether. It will be a big, big deal. They have not done it in Shelby County before, and this was something that Discover Shelby was really excited about, and so we're happy to host them for that. Saturday, they'll do time trials, so it won't be a ton of bikers, but Sunday is the race, and it'll be lots and lots of cyclists. And then September 27th is Homecoming, and October 12th is Discover Shelby Fest.
Questions for Alice? Okay, any other comments, questions from anybody? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.